We're ready. All right.
Alrighty.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our show, uh, The Geeks Life. I am Leon, and here next to me is.
Shantae the Geek.
How are you all doing today? Um, just just to recap, we have to talk about rebranding our podcast, and the reason there's several reasons as to why. Um, I'll allow Shante to tell you what those reasons are.
Okay, give me a second. Yeah. Okay. The reasoning behind the new brand of the podcast is one, I am not a he anymore. So the whole world would not fit. The reasoning behind that is I'm transgender. Now let's get back to what we're going to
Right.
start talking about.
So, official Kool-Aid, welcome, and thanks for the hype. So today we're gonna start with our favorite section, artifacts of gaming. So we're gonna cover from Atari to the latest, hopefully, which
The
is the
Xbox,
latest Xbox.
Xbox Series X.
But today's main focus is on the Atari 2600. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
So, guys, how do you guys think Atari came up to be the first console ever made?
It came out with the idea of gaming with light and sound.
That's right. Man working for Atari did wanted to create a game system based on light and sound. And if you think about it, that has been used nowadays in different toys and games as well. That
Yeah.
what you call it, the idea.
Yeah.
So this took back in the 70s actually, where it started. What the heck? Anyway, yeah. So it started on way on the 70s by a man who worked for Atari. He um decided to do a system which was based on sound and light, and it became a game. Became a game system. Its first the first game ever played, or the first game that Atari made, was Pong, which was the earliest one and the by far the best one there was at the time. Then later on, okay, Big Hunter C, how are you doing today? Uh, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. My something happened where good, good. Um, Sadly enough, something went wrong where I can't, or my partner Shante is not being able to be here for some reason. But anyway, what was I say? Oh yeah. So then later on, we have the introduction of. If you guys didn't know this, M- Nintendo came up with Mario. However, Mario wasn't introduced yet. It was actually um, introduced on Atari with the game Super Mario Bros, which basically you're Mario and you have to defeat all the Koopa's troops and the pipe zone. Kind of a weird game, but a fun one. Later on, we had Donkey Kong, and believe it or not, guys, we gotta thank whoever came up with the idea. And um, actually, Donkey Kong wouldn't be possible without uh, Popeye Popeye the Sailor Man. You guys might think, okay, so how did that happen? Well, if you think about it, when they did Donkey Kong, thanks to Popeye's idea, was that the main characters were replaced. Oh, no problem, no problem. Thanks for keep me on keep us on keep the show on tap. So yes, I would say, if and many of you would agree with me, if it wasn't because of Popeye, Donkey Kong wouldn't be born. And the reason why I'm saying that is because um, the fact that the characters were replaced, and for instance, we had Donkey Kong replacing Brutus, Um, then we have um, Mario replacing uh, the, Mario replacing Popeye, and then there was another princess, and no, it wasn't Princess Peach at the time or Prince. Okay, the thing about the princess, I'm gonna have to say this before I continue because in the Japanese way of saying it, just like the names, something we'll get into later on. Um, a princess in the Japanese uh, version would be called Princess Peach. Our version is Princess Toadstool. So before the whole revamping, her hair was brown, and if you notice, later on her hair became blonde throughout the later on games. So anyway, there was another princess, and you as Mario, you have to actually um, save this. You know how the whole damsel in distress situation. So as Mario, you have to jump through. Uh, you have to jump through barrels, bombs, fireballs, etc., and rescue the princess. Then there were other games. You have your baseball game. You had like one of my favorite games was Desert Falcon. Now the games at that time they looked kind of weird, but it was just the beginning of the video game era. So I mean, if you think of it, we wouldn't have if this concept didn't come around when it did. Today we wouldn't have any video games. So here's a little about the about the Atari. It was a four switch PC model from the 1988 and 1982, also known as the Atari Video Computer System. Prior to November 1982, and it was manufactured by Atari Inc. The type it was a home video console, and the first one, by the way. It was a second generation release. Second generation release date in North America September um, 1997, Europe 1978, France 1982, Japan October 1983, and Atari 20 the also the Atari 2800. The lifespan was from 1977 to 1992. The introductory price of this console was about uh 189 with 95 cents, equivalent to 920, and we're talking US dollars in 19 I mean in 2022. It was discontinued on January 1st, 1992. It sold over 30 million units as far as of 2004. It's a media ROM cartridge, CPU, 8-bit. Man, it had the same amount of the Nintendo and back then. So the CPU is an 8-bit MOS technology, 6507 at 1.19 megahertz. The memory was 128 bytes of RAM. Graphics, television interface adapter, controller input, joystick paddles, um, driving keypad, Tranquil. It was a best selling games Pac-Man, which sold 8 million as of 1990. Producer Atari, Hong, Hong Kong. The Atari Video Pinball was a successor in the Atari 5200. The Atari 6 uh, the Atari 2600 is a home video console developed and produced by Atari Incorporated, released on September 1977. It popularized micro uh, microprocessors based hardware and games stored in unswappable ROM cartridges of a format first used with Fairchild Channel F in 1977, branded as the Atari Video Game Computer System, Atari BSS, from its release until November 1982. The BCS was bundled with two joystick controller, a conjoined pair of paddle controllers, and a game cartridge. Initially, Combat, yeah, Combat was. If you guys played back then, Combat was a pretty good game. Uh, I had fun. I mean, I used to play Combat with my brother. It was a total war. It's, yeah, I mean, it's a fun game. What can I say? And later, Pac-Man. If I look back in that day, Pac-Man was my top one favorite of all time. Atari was successful creating the arcade game and video game, but their development cost to limited lifespan drove CEO Nolan Bushnell to seek programmable home system. The first inexpensive microprocessor from the MOS technology in the late 1975 made its first feasible Cyan engineering, lacking funding to complete the project. Bushnell sold the Atari to Warner Communications in 1976. Wow. So, hey, Shantae, thanks for welcome, and thanks for the hype. Uh, Man, I wish you were here. Um, I just get I know something went wrong, and I got us into that. So I yeah, I didn't realize Atari was. or became part of Warner Communications, the same people that had everything since Looney Tunes to you name it. That that I didn't know, seriously. That's a new one from me. But like I always say, every day you learn something new. So the Atari BCS was launched in 1977 with nine simple resolution games in a 2 kilobyte cartridges. Um, yeah, in 2 kilobyte cartridges. The system's first killer app was the home conversion of Taito's arcade game Space Invaders in 1980. Oh man, I remember Space Invaders. Who has played Space Invaders before? This is an old classic, you guys. Let's see. Okay, in 1980, the BCS became widely successful, landing to a funding of Activision and other third-party game developers and competitions from console manufacturers Mattel and Coleco. By the end of the primary life cycle in 1983 and 84, games of games for the 2600 were using more than four times the storage size of of the launch games. With significantly more advanced visuals and gameplay, the system was designed for such activations as such as Activision's Pitfall. In 1982, the Atari 2600 was the dominant game system in North America, amid competitions from both new consoles and game developers. A number of poor decisions from Atari management affected the company's industry as a whole. The public was an extreme investment into licensed games for the 2600, including Pac-Man and ET. I'm gonna take a pause here on ET, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. Um, there's a great guy that I admire, good guy, YouTuber, has his own show. Um, his name's John Rolfe, but everybody knows him as the angry video game nerd. Has explained, and he didn't want to touch any face with this game because ET was um ET wasn't a good game at all, and was he was he wanted to avoid the subject so there eh, wouldn't be any problems, because you gotta understand, when you do a review on something, even a movie. I have done reviews, and One of the things I learned, if you're doing a review and it could um, it could have a positive thing, but also with reviewing it could have a negative thing outcome. So so he he has done video games throughout his life and movies, and yeah, most of the games we had back then, they were good at a time, but then it just becomes like, you know, I'm a retro slash old fashioned gamer, but I do understand that we need to get with get with move with the time. Problem is there are those that they overlook at the old games because they're old. And I I once said it a long time ago, and I know a lot of people. You guys could tell me. You guys could tell me. I am mean. I'm gonna be. I'm a douche. And the reason why is because I believe if you're gonna call yourself a true gamer, you have to play every game, regardless of regardless of if it was as old as Atari ever was. Uh, I don't believe on and many people says they're a true gamer. Um, they call themselves a true gamer just because they play games. But if you're gonna overlook the old games, where does that fall? So anyway, going back to what I was saying about Young Reynard, he didn't want to touch anything, uh, any or make any reviews on ET because he knew how bad the game was, and he just didn't want to upset any people because a lot of us grew up with Atari. I had an Atari. I did play ET, and I could agree with him. It was an awful game, and I do understand why he didn't want to talk about it until uh, until he did a movie. He finally decided. He finally decided after a long time of not wanting to talk about ET. Once the movie came and it was all over with the movie, he did finally decided to talk about ET, and then he realized why that game was the way it was. And one of the things he said, he realized that the game in it wasn't meant to be what it was. It was just what it was, and he did recognize, or he acknowledged the game at the end, and he finally did talk about it. And you know, it's just the fact when you're gonna do a review like that, it makes you think, okay, I don't want to upset my viewers because I don't want, I don't, I'm gonna lose my viewers. I'll probably get in trouble. And the thing with nowadays with the media is you have your critics on everything. Um movie I'm when it comes to games and movies and all that, I have this little thing where I feel something's bad. I'm open to say it. And if for some reason I get a note or something from somebody, um, uh, I'm willing to accept whatever they throw me at. And I was told by people, you should be careful on what you say, especially when you do reviews. And I agree with these people. But that doesn't mean you cannot do a review just because you're gonna make yourselves enemies. I mean, you know, but sorry guys, going on with this um where was I? Oh yeah, we were talking about ET. So ET the extraterrestrial and Pac-Man became the system's biggest selling games. Now that's a shocker on the account of all the stuff about ET, but at that time they both were the system's biggest selling games. But the conversion of poor quality ended erode consumers' confidence in the console. It was rushed to market for the holiday shopping season and was critically panned. A commercial, uh, a commercial holiday show. Give me a second here. It was critical panned, a commercial failure for both games, and guilt of a third party shovelware were factors in ending an Atari's re- relevance in the console market, and Atari's downfall reverted reverberate through the industry, resulting in the video game crash. Okay. So I didn't know much about Pac-Man being involved on this because I knew, like most people knew, that ET, the game ET, led to the demise of Atari, and from what I heard and read, a bunch of consoles were buried along with the games. Atari has buried completely every single one of them along with the games, and it was nearby. Um, Not gonna rebuild the facility. Let's just say it was nearby a government location. That's where they buried the everything nearby. But what I didn't know was that both Pac-Man and ET were the cause of the um of the video game crash. That I didn't know. So Warner sold Atari's home divisions to a former uh, Commodore CEO, Jack Tramiel, in 1984. By the way, I was born in 1984, so it's funny this happened right about that time. In 1986, the new Atari Corporation under Tramiel released a lower cost version of the um, 2600 and the backward compatibility Atari 7800, but it was Nintendo that led the recovery of the industry with its 1985 launch of the Nintendo Entertainment System, production of the Atari 20. What? Production of the Atari 2600 ended on January 1st, 1992, with an estimate of 30 million units sold across its. Okay, here's another fact I didn't know. So that means that Nintendo dug Atari's hole and just took from them what definitely saved it was the launch of Nintendo. Okay, so Atari Incorporations. Oh, no. Atari Incorporation was founded by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney in 1972. Its first major production was Pong, and released in 1972. That was the first successful their first successful video game and coin operated. So then Atari developed arcade games following years. Pong gave the rise to a number of competitors to grow in the arcade market, and competition along with other competitors to the growing arcade game market. The competition, along with the missteps of Atari, led to a financial problems in 1974. Through the recovering by the end of the year, by 1975, Atari had released Pong home console, competing against Magnavox and the only major producer of home consoles at that time. Atari engineers recognized, however, the limitations and customs of logic integrated into the circuit board, permanently configuring the whole console to only one game. The increasing of competition increased, and the risk as Atari had fun with the past arcade games and gained the dedicated home console. Both platforms were built from integrating discrete electromechanical components into circuits rather than programmed electromechanical uh, wait, no, rather than programmed as on on and manufactured computer. Therefore, the development of the console had at least a cost of at least 100,000, equivalent to about 544 dollars in 2022, plus the time to complete, but the financial production only had about 3 months shelf lifetime, becoming audited by competition. Okay, so here there's a lot of things that I didn't even know, but by 1974, Atari had acquired Cayenne Engineering and Grass Valley Electronics Company, founded by Steve Mayer and Larry Amos, both former colleagues of Bushnell and Dabney from Ampex, who helped to develop new ideas for Atari arcade games. Even prior to the release of home version Pong, Cayenne's engineering led Major and Ron
Yes, be right there.
Milner had envisioned a home console powered by new programmable microprocessor compatible to playing Atari current arcade offerings. The programmable microprocessor would make the console design significantly simpler and more powerful in any dedicated single game unit. However, the cost of 100 went to and 300 of such chips was far outside the range of the market would tolerate. Atari had open negotiations to use Motorola's new 6800 in future systems. So basically, Atari tried to do a shortcut to save money, but um, I don't think it did any anything actually. In September 1975, most technology. Um, Give me a second, guys. Um, okay, so the 6502 came microprocessor for $25 at the Westcon trade shown in San Francisco. Mayor and Milner attended and met with the lead of the team. Would be too expensive. Wait, ah, hold on, I kind of messed up here. Okay, so Mayer and Milner attended and met the leader of the team to create the cheap chuck pedal. Puh. They proposed using the 6502 in a game console and offered to discuss it in further at Cayenne's facilities after the show.
No payout yet until next month. Yeah, we haven't reached the 50 mark yet. We're close to it, but not. We didn't fully hit it.
That's BS.
No, if you look at it, it's already been because they still have a lot to move over
Mm,
for August.
mm.
So
Over the 2 days, dang, over the 2 days, Moss and Cayenne engineers sketched out a 6502 base console designed by Mayer and Milner's specifications. Financial models show that even at $25, the 6502 would be too expensive, and the version of the 6502 and most Riot chip for input and output Cayenne and most negotiated the 6507 and Riot chip at $12 a pair. Moss also introduced Cayenne to microcomputer associates who had separately developed a debugging software and hardware for Moss, eh, or MOS. MOS had developed the Jolt computer for testing the 6502, which peddled and suggested it would be useful for Atari and Cayenne to use while developing their system. Milner was able to demonstrate a proof of concept for a programmable console implementing tank and arcade games by Atari's subsidiaries Key Games on the Jolt. Bundling the system. The first Stella prototype on display at the Computer History Museum by December 1975, Atari hired uh, Joe DeCure, a recent graduate from the University of California, Berkeley, who had been doing his own testing on the 6502. The Kerr began debugging the first prototype designed by Mayer and Milner, which gave the code name Stella. That sounds familiar. After the brand of the graphic interface to build up upon, a second prototype was complete by March 1976 with the help of J. Miner, who created a chip called the Television Interface Adapter, or known as TIA, to send graphics and audio to a television. The second prototype included a TIA, a 6507, and a ROM cartridge slot adapter. As the TIA's design was refined, Alcorn brought an in Atari's game developers to provide input on features. There was significant limitations in the 6507, the TIA, and other components, so the programmers creatively optimized their games to maximize the console. The console lacks a frame buffer and requires games to instruct the system to generate graphics in synchronization with the electron gun in cath- uh, cath- cathode ray tube, the CRT. As it scans across the rows screen, the programmer found ways to raise the beam to perform other functions while the electron gun scans outside the visible screen. Alongside the electronics development, Bushnell brought in Jean Landrum, a consultant who had just prior consulted for child camera and instruments for upcoming Channel F, determined the consumer requirements for the console. In his final report, Landrum suggested a living room aesthetic with a wood grain finish, and the cartridge must be idiot proof. Said the cartridge must be idiot proof, child proof, and effective in resisting potential static electricity. Problems with the living room environment. La- uh, Landrum recommended includes 4 to 5 dedicated games in addition to the cartridges, but it was dropped in the final design. Hard- Hardy had been. Oh wait, the cartridge design was done by James Asher and Douglas Harding. Harding had been engineering for Child and helping in the initial design of the Channel F cartridge, but quit. But he quit to join Atari in 1976. The interior of the cartridge that Asher had Asher and Hardy designed was sufficiently different to avoid patent conflicts, but the exterior components were directly influenced by the Channel F to help work around the static electricity concerns. Atari was still recovering from its 1974 financial woes and needed additional capital to fully enter the home console market through Bushnell, who was Bushnell was worried being beholden to outside financial source. Atari obtained smaller investments through 1975, but not at a scale on it, scale it the scale it needed and began considering the sales to a large firm by early 1976. Atari was introduced with to Warner Communications within which saw the potential for growing video games industry to help us offset declining profits from its film and music divisions. Negotiations took place during 1976, during which Atari cleared itself of liabilities, including the selling of stealing a patent infringement lawsuit with Magnavox over Ralph H. Beers and patents were the basis of the Magnavox Odyssey. In in the mid 1976, Fairchild announced that the Channel F planned for release later that year, beating Atari to the market. Launch and success. The second PCS model has lighter plastic molding and shielding and a more angular shape than the 1977 launch model. From 1980, the BCS has only four front switches and capital letters pro, lo- logotype. The unit was showcased on June 4, 1977 at the Summer Consumer Electronics Show, which plans for release in October. In October, the announcement was pur- purportedly displayed to waive the terms of the Magnavox patent lawsuit settlement, which would have been given Magnavox all technical information on any of the Atari's products announced between June 1st, 1976 and June 1st, 1977. However, Atari encountered production problems during the first batch, and its testing was complicated by the use of cartridge. Included combat game, the Atari BCS was launched in September 1977 at 199, equivalent to $960 in 2022. Which two joysticks and combat cartridge eight edition games were sold separately. The most of the launch games were based on arcade games developed by Atari. Its subsidiary key key games, for example, Combat was based of Kiss Tanks in 1974 and Atari's Jet Fighter in 1975. Atari sold between 300,000 to 350,000 and 400,000 Atari BCS units during 1977, attributed to the delay in shipping the units and consumer unfamiliarity with a swappable cartridge consoles that is not dedicated only one game. Atari obtained a license from Taito to develop a BSS version of its 1978 arcade hit Space Invaders. This is the first officially licensed arcade com- conversion for a home console. It is released in March 1980, doubled the console's sales for the year to more than 2 million units and doubled no and it was considered Atari's 200 206 six I mean 2600 my bad 2600's killer application sales then a double gain for the next 2 years by 1982 10 million consoles had been sold in the United States while best-selling game was Pac-Man and over 8 million copies sold by 1990. Pac-Man propelled worldwide Atari BS BCS sales to 12 million units during 1982. Eventually, selling 50 million consoles worldwide by the end of the year. In Europe, the Atari BCS sold 125,000 units in the United Kingdom during 1980 and 550,000 in West Germany by 1984. In France, where the BCS released in 1982 and the system sold 600,000 units by 1989. In 1982, yeah, in 1982, Atari launched its second programmable console, the Atari 5200, to standardize naming the BCS was renamed to the Atari 2600 Video Computer System or Atari 2600, derived from the manufacturer part number CX2600. By 1982, the 2600 cost Atari okay. Okay. By 1982, the 2600 cost Atari about four 42 no about 40 to make and was sold for average of 125 equivalent to 40 to make the soul was sold for an average of 125 to 380 in 22. The third party development Activision formed by Crane, Whitehead, and Miller in 1979 started developing parties BCS games using their knowledge of BCS designed by programming tricks and began releasing games in 1980. Designs programming tricks began releasing the games in 1980. Kaboom in 1981 and Pitfall in 1982 are amongst the most successful within the list. 1 and 4 million copies sold res- respectively in respectively. In 1980, Atari attempted to block the sales of the Activision cartridge, accusing the for intellectual property infringements. The two companies settled without court, with Activision agreeing to pay Atari a licensing fee for their games, and this made Activision the first third-party video game developer to establish the licensing model that continued to be used by console manufacturers for game development. Activision's success led to establishment of the third-party BCS game developers following Activision model in early 1980s, including US games, uh, TLC games by Apollo, Data Age, Sigma, Mystique, Command and Coma. The funding of Imagic included an ex-Atari programmer, Mattel and Coleco, each already producing its own more advanced console, created simplified versions of their existing games for the 2600. Mattel used the M Network brand name, expecting existing games from the 2600 Mattel used the name the M Network and brand games for its cartridges. Third-party games continued for half of PCS game sales by 1982. Decline and redesign. A third, in addition, the third-party game development Atari is received by first the first threat to har- the first major threat to its hardware dom- um, dominance for collect ColecoVision. ColecoVision had a lease from Nintendo to develop a version of the smash hit arcade game Donkey Kong in 1981, which was bundled with the um, with the smash hit arcade game. Oh wait, yeah, Donkey Kong in 1981, which is bundled with every console. Coleco gained about 17% of the hardware marketing. Okay. Warner Communications reported weaker results than expected in December 1982 to its shareholders, having expected a 50% year-to-year growth, but only got 10 to 15% due to the declining sales. Okay, due to the declining sales of Atari's weakened position led investors to start pulling funds out of video games, beginning a cascade of disastrous effects. And now, as the video game crash of 1983 M.A. Lonely of the third party um the third okay. In September 1983, Atari sent 14 truckloads. Hey, Pokemon Girl, thanks for the follow and welcome, welcome. How are you today? So, uh, cool, cool. Okay, so where were? Oh, okay. In September 1983, Atari sent 14 truckloads of unsold Atari games. Okay, guys, remember when I mentioned about Atari dumping video games and burying them at a specific location? Check this out. In September 1983, Atari sent 14 truckloads of unsold Atari 2600 cartridges and other equipment to a landfill in New Mexico desert, later labeled as the Atari video game burial, long considered an urban legend that claimed oh that claimed the burial contained millions of unsold cartridges. The site was excavated in 19 I mean excavated in 2014, confirming the report from former Atari executives that only about 700,000 cartridges had actually been buried. Atari reported 536 million lost for 1983 uh, as a whole, and continued to lose money into 1984 with 425 million loss reported in the second quarter. By mid 1984, software development for the 2600 has essentially stopped, except for excepted Atari and Activision. Warner, worried of supporting its failed Atari division, started looking for buyers in 1984. Warner sold most of the Atari to Jack Tramiel the founder of Commodore International in July 1984, about 240 million uh, of Commodore. Oh, wait, 200, 240 million through Warner and retain Atari's arcade business. Streamer was prominent of personal computers and halted all new 2600 games development soon after sales. The North American video game market did not recover until about 1986 after Nintendo's 1985 launch of the Nintendo Entertainment System in North American Corporation released and redesigned uh, the model of the 260, I mean 2600 in 1968, supported by a campaign touting price under $50. Oh. With the large library of cartridges and low price point, the 2600 continued to sell into the late 1980s. Atari released the last batch of games in 1989 and 1990, including Secret Quest and Fatal Run. By 1986, over 20 million Atari BCS units had been sold worldwide, and the final Atari license released in the PAL only version of the arcade game KLAX in 1990. After more than 14 years on the market, the 2600 line was formally discontinued on January 1st, 1992, along with the Atari 7800 and Atari 8-bit family of home computers. In Europe, last stocks of the 2600 were sold until summer and fall of 1995. So let's say hardware. The console main article, the Atari hardware, the Atari 2600 CPU is the most. Oh, is the MOS technology 6507, a version of the 6502, running at 1.19 megahertz in the 2600 through their internal silicon was identical. The 6507 was cheaper than the 6502 because it is um, package included fewer memory address pins, 13 instead of 16. The designers of Atari 2600 selected inexpensive cartridges. So, it looks like Atari has its ups and downs, and now I understand why is it that um, it didn't make it through. However, today we still see Atari products. The thing is, Atari did leave the console. They stay out of the console business because of the whole incident during the game crash. So it is understandable, but Atari is still running till today, and they're making games for multiple uh, game consoles. So yeah, they're still around. There's no doubt that they're gonna fade away like everybody thought afterwards. At this point, I wanna leave it as a Q&A. If you guys have some questions, feel free. Guys, feel free to ask me whatever you guys want. Uh, there's no rules except but one. Not you could ask me anything you guys want, but as long as it's not personal. Or if you have, I don't know, any questions, concerns, comments, um, ideas, um, quick updates, just working on new projects that are gonna be coming soon. Um, on my channel, I do have points that everybody could redeem. You guys are welcome to do that. Okay, since I got a couple minutes to go, what, what, yeah, what, What are your guys' favorite game systems or and games? Um, to me, I would say there's multiple games, multiple game systems. Um, but if I go back into the Atari, um, as far as Atari goes, my favorite game would be Desert. Well, there's a couple of them, but I would say Desert Falcon. Short game, yes, only 6 levels. But the more you guys play, I mean, every time you pass a level, the level keeps on getting bigger. There's 3 levels. There's your beginner, your novice level, which is beginners. Then you have your um, standard level, and then I believe you have your expert level. I played those before, and I got my tail whooped. I mean, man, I got a good whooping after playing those levels. I had even played. Uh, has anyone played? Well, Pac-Man Junior or Junior Pac-Man? That game was fun. Problem with that, the levels were harder, and I mean longer mazes. Uh, not. Well, yeah. Then of course, all the three classic Pac-Man games were also my favorite list. Starting with Pac-Man, then it was Miss Pac-Man, and uh, yeah. Junior Pac or Pac-Man Junior. That was really hard. I mean, levels were longer. I mean, there was another game. I don't know if one interesting thing. And guys, I don't know. Talking about being old fashioned here or retro, there was one way, nowadays the way to beat a game is actually passing the boss, or based on how many points you rank or how many levels you go through. Back then, a game, the way you would tell how would you beat a game, or not beat it, but it didn't go by it went by a point ranking system rather than levels. So I mean, the most points you did, that's how you would figure. Um oh, what I'm trying to say is, back then games were different. um how you would beat a game, or how would you do this or that on a game. um but yeah. So, anything you guys want to ask right now? Thanks for the hype, uh, Shante. So yeah, what else can I say? I pretty much covered um everything about. um yeah, it is understandable. I did realize one thing throughout this talking, and I now I understand why is it that the angry nerd, John Rolfe, you know didn't want to deal with discussing the whole committee, and a lot of people had requested him to do it, and I understand why. And like I said before, once you hit that point where you become a critic, and I mean, once you hit that point, things are gonna hit you left and right, and you don't want to lose fans either way. Um, I I was told And um, once I started my channel. Um, I told my aunt, hey, I have my channel and I'm gonna be doing this and that. And I still remember what she told me still today. You know what? You better be careful because right now you're gonna, you could easily, and it's true, you could make friends, but you could also make enemies. And I'm not saying this to get people upset. It's just um that's how that's how it works. So I gotta keep in mind um a lot of things. um i'm not I'm not here to bash on people. I'm not here to uh contradict anybody. um I'm not here to make enemies. I'm here to bring the best of me. And that's pretty much all I can say. And I do notice something. And yeah, every day you learn something. Something. I guess I learned that the hard way. But also, why I'm asking when I ask for if you guys have questions, ideas, it's because of I I said this on my own when I started with YouTube. I always said this at the end. If you do have any questions, concerns, suggestions, let me know. Because guys, without your input, with your input, I could decide. Okay, where what I'm gonna do next. Um, or where to take it from. That's why I always say and stress and I stress it. Pure input, it is important to me because that determines which way I want to head of next. Um, whether I'm doing a podcast or whether I'm doing games. or were there I'm reviewing something. Um, that's why I always ask this. I ask this to everybody. Mm. For this next couple minutes, I might as well give an update, and hopefully next time, I'll be able to be uh, talking with Shantae. I do not understand what happened. That was
It was because I was using that droid cam.
oh,
That was what was kicking me out from learning. I was
ouch,
finally able to turn my webcam back on. Computer settings.
ouch. Okay, so I just got word of what happened, but
It was a big tech.
uh, guys, yeah, I kind of feel bad that I took over the whole podcast myself, um, but now that the problem was solved,
We will continue the podcast in the next
this
few minutes.
this time we'll continue the podcast in the few minutes, and yes, Shantae's gonna be with me this time. So, um, all right. So yeah, um, so any thoughts? One other thing, one other oh man, guys, I hate when this happens. I say something, or I begin to say something, and I just uh forget what I'm saying. But coming up next, we're gonna continue, and this time for sure, right? Something's gonna be sharing the um podcast. We're gonna be as a team this time. So any updates that I have, just like I said, I have something going on, coming up ahead. Uh, my regular shows are gonna be back. Oh, I'm gonna be doing two types of things. They are both Leon's Corner, but every other week, uh, what's gonna happen on Leon's Corner? It's every other week's gonna be like 1 week's gonna be gaming, and then the other week's gonna be just chatting. So we do have variety because that's the first thing. That's what I intended to begin with. It's just that uh, things had uh, happened where there were th- there were changes that were had to made, and I had to take other decisions, and I had um, to actually stop from one thing to do another one. So in this next couple minutes, um, the next couple minutes, and we're gonna continue the podcast, but it's gonna be on Shinting's side. So I'll be joining in, and we'll go from there. So this would be a perfect time for you guys to take a break or talk to each other or go get a snack because there's more to come. So stay tuned. I'm gonna take a break as well, and I'll see you.
Hey everyone. This is yeah, Shantae the Geek here. Hold on a second.
All right, everyone. Just hold on. So just bear with me for a second. We're just waiting on my co-host to hop in, and we can continue where we left off.